So we actually have a number of really awesome questions, so I'm particularly excited. Some of these questions I actually have been wondering myself too. So I guess this is a question for both of you guys with regards to the orca story. How much of the article actually, the article that went viral, how much of that came from mobile reviews?
I was watching that, so that was like 7%. So when something takes off in Facebook, how your page looks in the iPhone from a native Facebook app, it has a special little frame that you fit in there. And that's overwhelmingly the most important screen you can design, because that's what people see you as. And so we spend a lot of time optimizing around that. And that then triggers desktop traffic. So the desktop traffic in total, page views grew. But whenever a Facebook moment has happened, what we've seen now is that the mobile traffic shifts with it by percentage quickly, so that it's at least 60-40, if not 70-30 mobile.
Great, and so that lends us perfectly with the next question for Melissa. So do you guys in the newsroom put CTAs in every single article?
Yeah, I'd say probably 90% now, because really, when we didn't have them, people would demand something to do, and without them, this type of audience gets mad. And they really want something, and really, it's really great. Like, if Dog Island still existed, and we said, go to Dog Island and rescue the dogs, they would do it in a heartbeat. I mean, they're like so intense. But it's great. I mean, we can tell people to go to a boycott or to write letters to, the prefecture in Japan where these dolphin hunts go on, and they'll do it in droves. And so, yeah, I mean, we use them all the time. They're really like the heart of these stories.
Awesome, great. And then that also blends perfectly with the next question. And so what I do at Rebel Mouse is I now run the Media Lab, and I'm really excited because it's a new venture at the company. And what we do is work with companies like the Dodo and MTV and hopefully soon Esquire on sort of new forms of content, audience development, really taking building a community to the next level. And so this question, we've been experimenting a lot, Paul, but I'd love to hear Melissa's perspective too. But have you seen any difference between pledges, petitions, polls, in terms of participation? Does one thing work better than the other? Is there some form, like some combination that works really well? Like what resonates with the Dodo audience the best?
It's hard. I would say that I think the petition is the most commitment, because putting your name to something is, it's just a lot. It's a lot to do, and we did start using them early on, and they worked great. But they really put the onus goes to those people that are going to join PETA or are really, these hardcore animal activists. It's just something about signing your name, I think, feels final. So the CTAs have been awesome because it's really just a tweet or a Facebook post, and it has the exact same impact for us, but it doesn't feel so putting your name, signing your stamp on this issue. So you could say, I feel like I don't like SeaWorld sometimes. I don't like what they do here. But you could say, well, I like their fish, or I like their penguins, and I'm fine with that. And you could feel comfortable sharing the CTA. It's kind of like more of a catch-all, rather than, kill SeaWorld forever or something like that.
Yeah, so kind of like low touch versus high touch.
Yeah.
In terms of commitment, yeah. So also along those lines, besides the orca story, for instance, mammal stories, which other animal stories, garner the most page views, and why do you think that is?
Oh gosh. Well, besides like pugs doing annoying stuff, those do really well.
And cats, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. Actually, it's really funny, and it's really kind of good for someone or for us, as trying to be serious about this. It's really great that the stories that do really well are the ones that sort of exposure to really harrowing or difficult problems. Our SeaWorld stories obviously do the best, but the ones where it's like, how are the circus elephants treated, or these Taiji dolphins? I mean, people want to hear about these issues, and they also love to hate these issues. So they do really well. I mean, it's kind of unfortunate, but it's good for these causes. Yeah, really, the elephants do really well, dolphins do really well. Pangolins do really, really well. Those little scaly ones, I don't know why. But yeah.
Because they're so unique and awesome.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Awesome. So this next question is actually for both of you guys. How do brands find their voice? And a brand it's more challenging to drive community, given that the dodo is all about animals and love for animals and passion, like for a brand, how can they find their own voice and like pick a theme, especially when it comes to like mission-driven media?
Well, I mean, I think that increasingly great brands are doing great because they have a voice. So I've been visiting a lot of campuses, so you see how they define their culture. So Nike, when you go in Portland, it looks like everybody kayaks to work. They just marathon, and at lunch they're all playing soccer and doing boot camps and stuff. And so at Coca-Cola, when you get to the desk, you have to get your ID, and I never smile when I take these photos, and nobody cares. But at Coca-Cola, they say, "Where's your Coca-Cola smile?" And you realize that Coca-Cola has the simplest and most fundamental, and no wonder it's the most popular word. For them, they've just been so one-to-one. Coca-Cola equals happiness. And if the photo looks like people are happy, good. Put it on red and white, and it's off. But there are no photos of anyone but happy people on the entire campus. And so I think the thing is, if you take a Lululemon, they totally have a voice. And so is something like a credit card, which seems boring, Amex Open, realize, small business people don't know a lot about business. And what if we start helping them get business advice? And so I think the thing is that it's a very emerging, for anyone working in brands and content, it's emerging and they're trying to find their footing, and it takes them a long time to post content, which gives them a severe disadvantage. So it's a little less right now finding out what their voice is than being able to find the space to experiment and prove themselves.
Awesome. All right, next question, I think, to Paul. Can you speak at all about sponsored content, something that we have been discussing a lot at Rebel Mass, and then, how that kind of works well and will be scalable for small mission-driven media publishers?
Yeah, so sponsored content, I think we were touching on a bit. It's what we're finding is that, if you look at GE, they seem from a distance so boring. And what are they about? And they found these ways to do stuff like they're researchers explaining to their kids in a Vine what they do. And it's sort of changing over how content is produced so that it should be less from a Madison app. So they still do a lot of this, and you see it. It's like this stuff we really ignore. It's his imagination at work or something like that. And we've seen it because they do this hundreds of millions of impressions to your head over a couple of years of that. But what's really working is where they're trying to create content that is actually shareable, etc. And so I think from the brand side, it's definitely happening. And what's great, and we do a lot of stuff with T-Mobile from Rebel Mouse, is when they start to really have the consumer tell their story. So why did you do it is much more important than why you should do it. Starting to see also match to your social graph that 3 of your friends have switched phones is thousands times more interesting than a bar graph of what they say the company is, and so on. So, but if you're trying to build a startup and you need to get advertising revenue, then for me right now, the real problem is that until you have a massive audience, and that means you have to be a ComScore top 100 or top 1,000 minimum, and the numbers are changing constantly on that, which means you got to have a good 30 million each, and still they're barely going to take you seriously because everything else is exploding. You can't get premium CPM just by throwing a banner on, and without premium CPM you can't make any money and you can't exist. So I think it's best characterized in my mind. I feel like Vice really got ahead of everybody on this. And I don't study them well enough, so I'm not going to bat that they've done it right every time. But for example, Dodo had an awesome one where Disney was launching the new Bears movie. They do the monkey, the apes, and it was awesome. I haven't seen the Bears one yet, but I'm going to with my kids. And it's perfect. It's like such a perfect match. And so the thing I think that you have to do is figure out, you have the strong voice. What's the brand with the same voice? So, if it's totally, change.org stuff, go get Patagonia. If it's totally active exercise, go get Lululemon. And then, as much as you can help them create content, it's what everyone else is doing right now. So BuzzFeed's building an agency. Vice has always had an agency. And so Vice's equivalent is if you're North Face, I'll find a hipster, pay for his ticket, find some dude who lives with a grizzly bear, and he'll go interview him in Wyoming, and that's North Face. And they pay so much more for that than, hey, I got 10 million YouTube views on the grizzly interview thing. You get a tiny percentage. So where you can find the brand that doesn't feel compromising at all. You can't go and maybe there's tons of examples where a brand would be horrible for you, and it's destructive. So I think there was a particular snafu. It was the Atlantic and the Scientologist stuff, where on a different media property, that same design treatment and everything would have been fine. It wasn't the design so much as the, oh my God, what a horrible brand for your audience. So.
All right, so let's spend a little bit of time talking about Facebook. Whether you like Facebook or not, Facebook moves the needle. And even though they change the newsfeed every day, and publishers try and game the newsfeed every day in some way, shape, or form, it's undeniable that it does help newsrooms kind of, reach new audiences and push traffic to new heights. I would love both of your perspective on sort of the impact of Facebook, how it's grown and changed and shaped things, especially in terms of engagement.
It's so fascinating. It's changed everything. Which, by the way, really weird is how little traffic Twitter sends by comparison. And we have a lot of data across lots of partners. It's shocking how the numbers on Twitter can accumulate, but maybe it's because Facebook has a safer frame that you go in back to, and Twitter just opens your browser, and mobile matters so much, but it is interesting. There's a dangerous thing that a lot of people are doing, and I think you have to do it with them to X degree, but be aware. If anyone knows the story of demand media, there was a craze to build contributor networks around gaming SEO. And they were careful, they did eHow, and they were careful, it wasn't gaming. I came upon a good example. These were the days when we had Blackberries, or maybe I'm showing a few of us here. Someone, please. Yeah, Blackberries. Fell in, got my kids throw it in a toilet bowl or something. So eHow came up on a Google search, and I tried to put it in rice. I don't think it worked, but I thought, oh, okay, so there's a good purpose for eHow. I searched for something specific and it gave me a useful answer. But there was a lot of growth in companies that were so focused on the algos behind Google and how our technology works with them. So there's a danger to companies that are going so all in with Facebook, because then you have this business and you have all these people's lives showing up to work to rely on this thing, and the algo switches one day and you're screwed. And so that happens to demand. So I think then you don't worry about gaming. You think about what's best practice. And then you think in the new era you live in, the best content. I read The Goldfinch. Has anyone read The Goldfinch? It's a great book. And with that, it won't ruin it, I promise, but there's a little piece where they're like contemplating artwork and why something clicks with us. And this guy has a great thing where he says it's not because of it's universal or that it's all these things art critics say. It's because this piece of art, it just says, psst, hey you know, and it's like it's talking to you. And that's the sort of content that works on Facebook. And in the mess of all of it, somehow this thing is you. And that's how you want people to see you. You know, so you'll never, like Jonah Peretti has a great thing on Google, you can search for cures for acne, but you're never gonna Facebook post like, my skin's really oily and I need help. And what do you guys think? On Facebook, you'll post how you want everyone to see you as. So, you know, there's a very negative sociological thing for us to all like worry about, that we all have to portray ourselves as perfect and deep and intellectual, and maybe that's part of this disappearing of the empathy, is that we all have to look non-empathetic, we have to have empathy and not, but anyway.
Yeah, I mean.
Somebody stop.
Yeah, we really have that effect in full force. I mean, people, it's not an animal cause, it's any sort of humanitarian cause, any environmental cause. People want to, they want to look like good people, and giving them the opportunity to do that is easy for us. I mean, anyone who shares a post saying that they're so empathetic that they would never go to SeaWorld, I mean, that's a great cause, and we totally support that. But really, I mean, it's a way to look good, and it's a way to look like you have a really strong conscience and you care about these issues, even if maybe you don't that much. And that's fine, we'll take it. And I'll point out, I mean, our stories really, we don't rely on Facebook, but it's a huge driver. And especially when we get these big shares from these organizations that are interested in us. I mean, PETA is really just one of a bunch, and really that's sort of the extreme. But when these organizations share one story all at the same time, that's really when we get this traffic that is exploding. And that's when we get eyeballs on it. That's when we get complaints to the USDA against SeaWorld because of one of our stories was so disturbing. I mean, that's when we see action happening, and it's because it gets all of these eyeballs on it, from animal rights people to everyone else.
Exactly. I mean, simply put, you know, sharing is caring, right? You know, when you really boil it down. And that leads perfectly to the next question. So how do you post compelling content that people will share and like? What makes a post viral? Personally, I don't like the term viral. I say shareable now, just because of the connotations of the word viral. But how can you get people to become more passionate about a cause? There's kind of three questions in one. So let's tackle the, so how do you create compelling content that people will share and like, and that will hopefully be like super shareable?
You know, it's a tricky equation. I find that really getting things that people don't know, or maybe a niche group knows, but other people don't know, are super shareable. And they shock people. And it's another, I mean, they want to identify with it, so they'll share it. Like, we've done stories about, you know, disturbing animal care practices at SeaWorld. And I'm sorry I keep using that metaphor of SeaWorld, but it's an important one. And people, I mean, it's common knowledge. Like, the animal rights groups know this thing, but people don't know it. And when they hear that, you know, they have to rub sunscreen on an orca so it doesn't get burned in captivity, like, that's kind of shocking. And they go crazy. And I don't know, I think really there's like all of these SEO games and all this stuff, but really it just, for our audience at least, comes down to putting something in front of them they didn't know, and something a lot of times that they're outraged at, or that they are surprised by because it's so cute or emotional or touching. I mean, it seems like a very basic playing to human emotions, which is nice.
Well, I don't know that there are that many just magic answers, but one thing that I do find fascinating is that there are some people that are clearly very good at this. So it's not just luck. Like at HuffPost, there was an editor who was such a traffic monster that even a year after she left around acquisition, and even a year after she left, on many days she was the top writer of that day, like when you looked at stats. And it was because her stuff continued to do so well, the things she had done. And so I find that very fascinating when you look at Nietzsche at Gawker, right? The like traffic stats that he was like 80% of their traffic.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of technology and product stuff that we do to give the tools over, but I think the really fun thing is the magic that some people are really good at this.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start to study them and they tend to be ahead of something. They're obsessive. So for example, this editor, she was at a party and some news broke. Like she found a laptop. Like she would post that within 30 seconds, she would know in post. And so there's something about being ahead of it, and there's something about being so deep in it that you find the angle. You know, so Kara Swisher's tremendous at finding the angle, and that's just hard work in a sense of being so entrenched. So the same is happening with Facebook, where there are some people who are awesome at it. And if you get awesome at it, it makes you a valuable person in today's economy.
Absolutely. Okay, more questions? All right. If you have any more questions, please feel free to submit them. Oh, I just had a great one. So this is kind of an interesting question. So what role does paid digital advertising play in Dodo's marketing mix?
The stuff we're trying to do at Dodo is just right now with Facebook, especially when you're a new page, you have to pay the parking meter now. It's not just organic reach. So it's interesting though, because it doesn't have to be more than a parking meter that you pay if you do it really efficiently. And so part of the Rebel Mouse platform, for example, is allowing you to do dark posts on Facebook. So you have this one story, and you don't know if it's that the kittens are all, I'm sorry if this is a bad example, but that the kittens are all yawning is the thing, or that they're struggling to wake up. And you're not sure, but one of these is going to be the reason it goes viral. And so when you, normally without the Rebel Mouse platform, but this is the type of stuff you need to obsess about anyway, but you can test then the one post and posts about the yawning, they're all yawning, but that will lead to a post that has them all struggling to wake up, so you don't get to match them. When you match a take, and it means that the teaser is perfect, it gets a really high click-through rate, and where they land gets a very high share rate, that's when Facebook says, okay, I'm going to let you go down on this one, because they hate it when it's high click-through rates and no shares. That means you've done clickbait and no one's happy with the result. And when it's low click-through rates, even if it's high share rates when you get it, it's like, people are bored by the teaser. So you can spend $100, $50, a couple $100 on a mega hit here and there and go very far.
Cool. All right, so next question. What is the best way to use social media to drive traffic when there's so much noise in people's news feeds already? And I kind of want to take this question to the next level and go beyond Facebook and maybe talk about Pinterest and talk about Snapchat, because I think they're doing really awesome things and they're really sort of intercepting audiences in different ways. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I can't shed a lot of light on it, but I think a lot of the things that we do are so graphic, which is great for us because people, in our experience, maybe it's because it's this sort of niche market, but we really find that when people can see, whether it's like an orangutan smiling or something, when they can see that and it really resonates with them, or if they can see something that is maybe unpleasant and they really don't like, the inside of a factory farm. Those things tend to really boost our stories and really get reactions and comments and shares and also those things tend to get us on the map on these issues and make us the authority. I mean, it's so kind of simple, but I feel like the graphics really help us a lot. And then also, yeah, I think a lot of times being the first on Twitter to share something in this community of activism that they're just hungry for news, that's huge for us. And following like the Dolphin Hunt page happens every single day, and when we're the people that you go to for that news, I mean, people share that like crazy on Twitter, especially because it's just so fast and it's so up to date. So yeah, I guess those are sort of two things that really seem to resonate with just our sort of niche group.
And one thing that we've seen is that it's tremendously important to create an ecosystem of other Facebook pages that you have a relationship with. So the wrong way to do it is you have a story and it's perfect, so you go search 12 pages that also care about orcas, and then you emergency sort of like, this story's hot, please post it, and they don't know who you are, and it seems spammy. And the right way to do it is to spend some time thinking about all the Facebook pages that relate to your area. And so maybe it's animal activists for dodo and for animal photographers and etc. And to begin in advance to create a relationship that they can expect that you'll post from your Facebook page to them. And when they can write content and then it's their content on your site, then they're very likely to share it from their page. But a big part of the Facebook traffic isn't just how one story looks in the feed. It's the ecosystem of people who already have a touch on the type of audience that will really react to this. And building those relationships is super important.
All right, that brings us to a close. Wasim, do you have any final remarks or anything to mention? No? Okay, all right. Thank you guys so much for coming tonight. We hope you enjoyed it, and feel free, we'll be hanging out if you have any more additional questions.
We spent an awful lot of time talking about Facebook and more time talking about RebelMouse. Can you talk a little bit about how it works and how it can help us that?
Yeah, so RebelMouse is a publishing platform. We have a few tiers of service. There's an Explore product, which is free. My email is paul@rebelmouse. I'll connect you to the right team if you have ideas, etc. But the idea is that the product allows you to ingest content from social, so you can monitor a hashtag and do lots of things with it. It has a very sophisticated article editor, so if you've posted on Medium or Tumblr, you can mask up there and stuff we've done of our own. Every article page has a lot of software to it, which in part is stats, so you see depth of scroll, but we think most importantly, number of signups created by that article. And of course, who's contributing it, so you see the popular contributors, but very importantly, there's a call to action that has a lot of software behind it designed to create viral hashtag moments that link back to your article page and create all these signups in depth. So we're a very social CMS, and you can launch us to, we have native apps, so you can go get the Dodo on Android and iOS, and with many clients we're launching native first or native only. But it does work for mobile web, and we think with content, it should work anywhere. So content in RebelMouse will work in mobile web and responsive design to anywhere, etc. But it also populates newsletters. So clients often have dormant newsletter lists that they realize they can take their most popular content on social. And with RebelMouse, we do that. We do velocity alerts. So every tweet 1 minute later, if you're comparing the average to your normal tweet 1 minute later, you know whether a tweet is doing well or not. So you can know that in minute 1 that this one's taking off. So that can trigger something to go to the top of an alert. We do sponsored content as well, so content can flow into ads, and a lot of companies will use us, brands will use us to say, in the simplest way, take our video content, the most popular of it, and just traffic it as ads, and we amplify the work they're doing there. And so we're working with United, MasterCard, Harvard, T-Mobile, and Intel, and a lot of companies on content marketing and becoming a good publisher. And then with media companies, we power the community for Teen Wolf for MTV, but the plan is to roll that out to all their other shows. And contracts are signing quickly with other media companies to build the community around that. So overall, the philosophy of Rebel Mouse is that you shouldn't take a lot, you shouldn't have to. First off, once you do the budget of all the stuff you have to do to build the site, and you've got the front-end developer and the back-end and the sysadmin, and then you have to keep up with the pace of change. What the Dodo pays us, we then compare to HuffPost tech costs, and it's a fraction of the cost. So we're that in the cloud as a managed service. For those of you who think there might be a great match around what you're doing, we'd love to talk about that. And we have programs like we did with the Dodo where you pay very little or nothing at the start, but you know that you have a path towards monetization, etc. So did that answer? Thank you for asking that.
Yeah,
I didn't want to just be all rebel. Like if you let me talk about my kids or my company, then I'd never,
you can keep going on. Paul, could you give us a glimpse under the hood of what's coming in the future, maybe?
Yeah, so we've always done a lot of work on the social graphs and ingesting it so that we can do friend alert when your friend also signs up for a property we power. That stuff is hard. In the beginning, we were very nervous to release what we call the river, because we thought Twitter might see it as threatening that you take the people who are on Rebel Mouse and who are tweeting and you pull their content into a new river. But now we're at a perfect place for it, and so we're releasing a river for clients. So they essentially, as you launch these communities, you have a dashboard, and you have a Tumblr-like dashboard, and you're able to see all the activity of other people. What I love is that we're also releasing that as workflow stuff. So if you work at Intel, the stuff you go through, we've hacked Google Drives and Basecamps and all this stuff. Nobody likes their workflow solutions, and we think there's a way to build it in a much more Instagram-like way where it's not a horror scene. And so that essentially is the river for workflow as well. And then we're 35 developers constantly releasing. We are powering Gary Vaynerchuk's site and working with him on a bunch of the clients VaynerMedia has now. And so, is that?
Yeah, great. Exciting times for Rebel Mouse. So, as Paul said, he's Paul at Rebel Mouse. I'm Niketa at rebelmouse.com. You can find us online, rebelmouse.com, blog.rebelmouse. Please visit the Dodo, of course, and sign up and be a part of the community. Such a great cause. And thank you very much for attending tonight. And we hope to see you at future Rebel Mouse events and events at General Assembly.
And I think we bought lots of wine. I was like, oh
Yes.
my God, how much wine? So it's somewhere to drink.
Yeah, there's plenty of booze and nibbles back there, so please feel free to
Thank you,
hang out
guys.
and mingle. Thank you.